Hello, happy Friday, the end of July, and I have a bunch of things to show you. This is Creative You, and I'm Catherine Kirby, and I'm from Pennsylvania, and this is about knitting and crocheting and what's going on in life. So, it's been a hot summer, kind of. We get a lot of sudden storms, and it's been a lot of fun things going on. So last week at my church, we had Vacation Bible School, and this is the first year that I helped out. It was a blast. We had a lot of good kids. I signed up to be the science helper, and the theme was islands, and some of the helpers dressed up like pirates, and they had these neat cowls, I guess you'd call it, just like a tubular fabric. You could wear it on your head to be a pirate. You could wear it around your neck. And then all the kids had different colors depending on the different classes. And this says, I will praise my God and my King with my whole heart. And so we had grades 4 to 6. And we had a packet of information, and one night it was on water pressure, saturation, just different concepts. So I think that the night the kids really had fun was they had to guess how much water a diaper would hold. And I didn't realize that disposable diapers have this thin little powder, little teeny tiny granules, almost like sand, maybe even smaller. And as they absorb water, they swell into like little beads. And the kids would guess like 1 cup. Oh my goodness, I think one of the diapers held something like 18 cups of water. One of the diapers said holds 30 times its weight in water. Wow. We did lava lamps, and maybe I'll show you ours on the next podcast because it's just 3 ingredients. And then when I had the grand boys over the other day, we made lava lamps, and we also made little rockets. So if you have old film canisters, little film containers, you put almost fill it up with water. You add 1/4 of a Alka-Seltzer, flip it around, and it will fly up in the air. So we had fun with those. One night we did acid and bases. So we had 10 little cups with different things in, like milk and magnesia, lemon juice, water, all kinds of things. And then we dropped cabbage juice in, and you had a chart. Acids would turn pinks or purple, and bases or alkaline would turn greens and blues. So yeah, we had a lot of fun. So let's just do some things from the last show. You know, any of you that follow my podcast know that I don't follow the normal routine that most podcasters do. I just think, why does everybody have to be exactly the same? You know, it's like FOs, whips, acquisitions, why can't, plus the other thing, if you show unfinished projects, then the next podcast, people expect to see them finished, and I might want to work on other things. I don't want to be a slave to my podcast, but so Mindy, this is Myndy by Amba O'Brien. And the last podcast, this just looked like a long strip. And I thought I did it wrong, but the shape is in the blocking. So you block it, you pull this down, I pinned it. I blocked part of it. I didn't get the ends blocked. So the last podcast, it all just looked kind of like this, the whole thing. But blocking it really brought out the lace and the shape. This was done with a fingering weight yarn, Knitting Fever Painted Desert in the Angelic colorway. And mine wasn't really that long, but boy, with blocking, it really grew. So if you don't have blocking boards, even a bulletin board will work, as long as it's something that you can get pins into, if it's something like this, or if you can lay flat. So, I complained. Yeah, I did. I complained that it took a long time, but now that it's finished, I really like it. And it's 100% washable wool, but after it got washed, it got nice and soft. So there we go. It's kind of bright out, and when it's bright out, the podcast is kind of dark, so I hope it works. This is a merino silk yarn that was put out by Cherry Tree, and I forget what this color is called, but interestingly, this lady came into the shop yesterday with some yarn that was that weight. It was a blue, a pink, a purple, and she said, I need more of this. She got a skein. She was doing a garter stitch scarf, and she only had about that much. And I said, are you sure you got that at my shop? I don't recognize that. And it was one of these skeins in different colors. So this is Angel Hat by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears podcast. You do a very long brim and then the hat. I'm not a huge fan of doing ribbing, but when it's finished, you're always happy that you did it. It's a free pattern, and there's the top. Yeah, kind of like an X at the top. So, we all have these projects laying around and they're almost finished. And I didn't stick to the script of finishing all of my things from the last podcast, because you find things that are almost finished and you say, come on, let's just do it. This does get her done. This does look like a striping yarn, but when you look at it, it looks like a variegated yarn, but I guess it's a little bit of both. So the Angel Hat. I have done this scarf in the past. It's, I think, my so-called lacy scarf. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to look it up. It's done with 2 strands of yarn. So I have a strand of Pima Lino, or it's a linen, it's the thin yarn. And then I have a strand of United, which is a Queensland yarn. And it's nice and lightweight. It's a very simple, I think, 2-stitch pattern or 3. You really can't mess up. This is light purple and light pinks. And I've done several of these. It's just fun. I have to look up who did the pattern. It's a free pattern. And talking about scarves, I have a few more. This, I think, for all purposes is finished. It's a crocheted scarf done with Louisa Harding Lucy. One of the reasons why I love doing a podcast is when I look at this up close, I don't see all that neat pattern. It's like when you hold things up for your podcast, you're like, wow, look at that pattern that's coming forth. This is a fingering weight yarn, and it's 3 double crochets in one space, and then a single on top of the last row's 3 double crochets. So let's see here. So 3 double crochets, single, 3 doubles, single, 3 doubles, single. And I love the yarn. It's a washable wool. You can make socks with it. I do notice on scarves, the ends tend to kind of bloom. I guess it's gravity, the weight, but I love the colors. Lemon, peaches, dark purples. It's very pretty. Do you think that the infinity scarf is kind of on its way out? I mean, it was a huge thing, but you don't really hear much about it anymore. Maybe when winter comes, maybe. This scarf I had started a long time ago. It's in the color Tiger Lily. Fern Frost is the name. It's this yarn, Louisa Harding Amatola Grande, and I finally finished it, and it's fun. They talk about, see how my end bloomed? They talk about a provisional cast on and then grafting the ends together, which would work, and even now I could sew them because my diagonal, but I don't know that I want, oh, I don't know, that's pretty. I didn't know if I wanted an infinity scarf or just, wear it. You can always stick a little pin in it, but you know what? Now that I'm seeing it, it probably would be nice as an infinity scarf. Yeah, I just really like it. So I'm going to do another one in this colorway and samples for the yarn shop I own, which is called Creative View, EWE. And this is by Susan Ashcroft. I can't remember if you have to pay for it or if it's free. I think you have to pay for it. It might be $5. I'm not sure. Amatola also comes in a fingering weight. It's they kind of went on a binge where they were naming yarns after Peter Pan, and I think this is TikTok. And this is something I started, and my husband and I were talking about baseball terms. So, I started this. It's in timeout, it's in the dugout. Where is it? Where, this would be a home run. Woo! Finished, got all the bases done. The Pine Barrens hat would be on second base. You do 3 repeats. So I'm on the second repeat. It's a double moss stitch. And this delightful yarn is Misky. It's a baby llama. I'm using these 2 colors. So a second base project. And this is by Benjamin Matthews. And I had said it would be done by this show. Well, guess what? It's not. And then this is another color of Amatola. I think this one is called Gothic. It's pinks, hot pinks, purples, kind of blue, gray. One of my pet peeves is yarn companies that make up neat colors and then they don't put them on the label. So this would be an example. No color name on the label, but if you look it up on their website, then you see the neat colors. So just to catch up a little bit about what's been going on with me, I like to read. One of the books I just finished was Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate. It was my first book by her. A good portion of the book was true about a Tennessee adoption home that was very crooked and a place of horrors. The characters are fictional. Now, I liked it. I mean, I just read through it quickly. I always thought that I'm quick to pick up grammatical errors and things, but I was surprised when I went on Amazon and some people said, oh, it was terrible writing and it was predictable and she got off on tangents. Maybe I just go easier on people. I would like to read more of her books. and I've already passed it on to my friend Sharon. And as far as movies, remember the old, if any of you are my age, the old Parent Trap. The first one was with Brian O'Keefe, and the woman that played Vicky resurfaces in the newer movie as the woman's mother. But these little grandkids have never seen that, so I purchased it, and I was thinking like I owned the disc, and I'm trying to get this disc to work and nothing's happening. Well, I didn't purchase a disc. I purchased it online. It was in my TV. What a crazy thing. And then I saw a movie on, I don't know if it was YouTube. It was a free movie called Discarded Things. And it was about a woman that becomes widowed. And because she develops a drinking problem, she doesn't get her old job back. She has trouble getting a job. And she goes to a home for troubled teens. And in the beginning, she hates it. But she begins to open up her heart to the teens. Also, she really butts heads with the director. So it's a good movie. I think you would like it. Discarded Things. Let's see what else. So I want to ask you all, with prices going up, what is your limit for what you would spend on a pattern? Can you comment? I would really like to know. I see the price of patterns going up. I know the consumer will have their say. Some are now $9, some are more, $9.50. So what is your average price that you would pay for a pattern? I'm not talking about if you see something you really love and you can't live without it. I'm not talking about that, but just what you would spend on the average. So I think I lost my other piece. We'll see if it shows up here. I have to say, these metal cups sure makes life easier. Your drinks stay cold or hot. Cuts down on dishes. Everybody has their own cup. Cuts down on waste because things don't get watery. I love that invention. Let's see what else. This is something new I cast on, like I really needed to cast on a new project. This is Baby Cashmerino with a Debbie Bliss yarn, and now it's a Ella Ray yarn, and it's nice and soft, squishy. I love the OGE patterns, and I was knitting this, watching a podcast, and the podcaster actually showed the sweater. I'm like, I'm doing that. It's called Whispers. I do think when it's finished that I will block it a little bit or steam block it so you can see the design. And all that I need to do is finish a few more inches and then do my sleeves. So I'm very happy with it. It takes 3 buttons, and it's a sport weight yarn. And Marcus knows I'm out here and he's trying to get out. Last podcast, I told you I was going to start the Soldotna crop top, and I did. Now, people said, oh, this thing just flies off the needles. Well, I think I was used to knitting on an 8 and 9 needle, and then going down to a size 4, I didn't really think it was flying off the needles. I think some of these podcasters must just knit like the wind. Plus, I sat it down to work on other things, and those are my colors. The purple that's kind of on the pinkish side, a light pink, which paired with this, it's almost looking like a peach, and then my rose color and my white. So I have to finish this and then do another section of that. And then it's supposed to be done, I think, with a DK weight. This is, I think that's a sport weight. Probably a lot of you have seen this top. I'm kind of late to the party, but I decided I wanted to do it. And because I'm taking a chance and doing it on a thinner yarn, it's a chance that it might be too small, but I have lots of granddaughters. I was watching a podcast, and this woman did this amazing long coat, but it called for a 7 needle, and she only had a size 8, so she went with the 8. And now she has so much regret because it's dragging on the floor like a train. And I'm thinking, yeah, it wasn't worth. She thought she would save money. She thought she'd get started right away. But in the end, it wasn't a bargain, was it? And I thought this would be finished, but this is it Baby's First Romper done in Cumulus, which is a very soft cotton put out by Juniper Moon. I just got a little bit challenged by how it's all getting hooked up. And so because I was challenged, the best thing to do is sit it aside for a day or 2 or 3. And then when you're fresh, go back to it. Sometimes it helps to read the directions out loud. I'm sorry, I'm drinking a lot. It's really hot out here, but I closed the door because when my husband comes home from the store, he'll be loud, the dogs will bark, and it will be disruptive, very disruptive. So I had a class this week, and one of the ladies in the class actually knits the opposite of what we would knit. She is right-handed, so usually we put our needle in and we wrap it around, or we do continental, but she wraps the opposite way. So when she does the next row, her stitches are then on backwards. You shouldn't be able to see. Oh, my husband's home. You shouldn't be able. It's really annoying because Marcus just insists on barking at him all the time. You shouldn't be able to see the back leg. If you do, you can either flip it or knit it through the back stitch, but you don't want to knit it in a regular way because when your project's done, it will show up. And if you've ripped out a whole row and you got your stitches on twisted and you knit them, it's going to show, and you're not going to be happy at all. So a couple podcasts ago, I was really into the crocheted moss stitch. I just think it's a really neat stitch. It's an alternating half double crochet and a slip stitch. And then here comes Marcus. And then on the next row, you switch them. This is a blanket that I haven't completed. So what I did, hey there, Marcus boy, come up here and say hi. Can you get up here? Do you see my little puppy wuppy here? He's a good dog. He really is. I know you can barely see him. So I only sewed one so that I can show you. For the child size, it's just a rectangle. And then I'm going to sew them down so far and sew up the end. So here you go. Now I didn't know for a child's foot exactly how far to sew down. Kids can have little chubby ankles or skinny ankles. So I guess the best thing to do would be to have some extra yarn, and when you give them, actually have the child put them on and see if you need to sew back more. But I think they're very cute just for being a a rectangle. Yeah, I was happy with them. I'd like to experiment again. And my pom-poms, I just wrapped them around my fingers 30 times, and that was that. So a podcast I watched was Ruth Loves to Knit, and she likes to do Bible verses at the end of her podcast. And I'm a Christian. I love the Bible. I heard somebody say one time, read it with the heart of a child. But I found this book. This man, M.R. DeHaan, passed away a long time ago. He used to have a radio program. And because I suffer from chronic pain, I've picked this up again, Broken Things, the Ministry of Suffering. And it might speak to some of you. I underlined a lot of things. God can't use things that are broken. There's no making without breaking. The history of every human life is the history of breaking. However, to the child of God, every broken thing is but the assurance that God is making something. We cast aside broken things and call them junk, but God casts aside the unbroken things as useless. And he gives the beautiful illustration of Gideon, who had, 32,000 men, and God told him to get it down to 300. They each had like a clay pitcher with a torch, and when he gave them the signal, they broke them, and it made a loud noise, and the enemy thought they were surrounded, and they ran. But he made the analogy that we are these vessels with the light, God's light inside of us. The pitchers are earthen vessels, and hidden in them were flaming torches of light. We who have been saved are the earthen vessels to whom the Lord has entrusted the blessing of the Holy Spirit and the word of life. Empty vessels are used all through scriptures. It was empty vessels that water was poured into at the wedding of Canaan and made into wine, the symbol of joy and salvation at the word of the Lord. It was earthen vessels that the widow's small supply of oil was poured until all the vessels were filled. We are at best earthen vessels to whom has been entrusted the words of life. Some people, the torches are there, but there's no light and no victory until the pitchers were broken. Then the light shines forth and the enemy flees. So I'm enjoying this book a lot. In God's wise counsel, everything must be broken before it can be made. Life is full of broken things, broken homes, broken hearts, broken health, broken bodies, but all these tragedies are known to God, and He will use them. The things we thought were the greatest trials and tragedies are found later to be God's way of bringing us something better. Then, if you love the Bible, you'll love this. Genesis speaks of a broken fellowship, but God uses it to show His grace. Exodus tells of a broken law, but God uses it to prove to man his need for salvation. Numbers depicts a broken covenant. The Psalms are the outpouring of a broken and contrite heart. Kings tell of a man with a broken back. Excuse me, I've got yarn up my nose. Who sat at the king's table. Judges tells of broken pitchers in the hands of 300 men. Matthew, we read of broken loaves in the hands of Jesus. Mark tells us about a broken roof, which enabled a paralytic to approach Jesus for healing. In Luke, we read of a broken alabaster box. In John, a broken home where Lazarus died. We read about a broken net, and broken ship, the pieces of which helped to save Paul and his companions. And then the broken body of our Lord on the tree. And we hear Him say, "This is my body, which was broken for you." In each of these examples, the breaking was for a purpose, and in every instance, a blessing resulted that far outshone everything else, that the pain of breaking was soon forgotten. Wonderful, isn't it? That really, really ministered to my heart, and I hope that it does you. So, in closing, a lot of people that come into the shop say they don't like cotton yarn. One lady made a blanket one time and it stretched all out. There is a difference between cheap cotton and good cotton, and so this is good cotton. I washed the dishcloth, it's still wet, and here it is. It has a good shape. This is a cheap cotton. And as you can see, look at that. It looks horrible, doesn't it? You know, who cares for a dishcloth? But I wanted to show you this illustration. You know, you're not going to block a dishcloth every time you use it. And once it's wet, you don't care. But you might want to spend a little bit more. And especially if you make something to wear, don't use dishcloth cotton. Okay. Well, thank you all for sharing your day with me, your time with me. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And I'm going to sign out now. And I'll see you the next time. And shine, baby, shine.